It began, as so many great rivalries do, with a cake. In the winter of 1927, as Australia and New Zealand approached the cusp of modern nationhood, a sweet and sticky scandal emerged that threatened to strain trans-Tasman relations, not over borders or politics, but over a cube of sponge cake dipped in chocolate and rolled in coconut, the Lamington. To many Australians, the Lamington is sacred, a lunchtime staple, a school fundraiser hero, a dessert with roots deep in Queensland's colonial past. But in July 1927, a shock claim emerged from across the sea. New Zealanders had made it first. Suddenly, what had been a humble dessert became the center of a full-blown culinary controversy. In Australia, the origin story was well known. The cake was said to be named after Lord Lamington, Governor of Queensland, from 1896 to 1901. According to the widely accepted tale, his French-born chef, Armand Galland, invented the treat as a clever solution for surprise guests, dipping stale sponge into chocolate and coconut to disguise its age. The story had become part of Queensland folklore, backed by archived menus and local government statements. But across the Tasman, New Zealand historians presented their own evidence. They pointed to a late 19th century Wellington cake, strikingly similar to the Lamington, documented in a watercolor painting dated to 1888, over a decade before Lord Lamington's term began. They argued that the dessert had existed independently in New Zealand kitchens long before Galland's supposed invention. By mid-1927, both sides had mobilized. Australian newspapers defended Galland's legacy, publishing editorials that praised the genius of Government House. The Queensland government released a statement reinforcing the official origin. Meanwhile, New Zealand scholars pushed forward archival materials and recipe fragments, claiming culinary sovereignty. Letters were exchanged. Notes passed through diplomatic channels. Government officials stepped in, not with sanctions, but with citations. Lamington became more than a dessert. It became a symbol. The situation escalated to what some historians now call the Lamington Wars. Though it never reached formal diplomatic crisis, the tone of national pride ran hot. The Guardian later described the dispute as one of culinary trench warfare. Regional identity, still forming in both nations, had found an unlikely battleground, a frosted square of cake. Late in 1927, the tension softened. Both sides informally agreed to acknowledge multiple origin stories. Australia retained Lord Lamington's name and Galland's kitchen. New Zealand affirmed its earlier Wellington cake variant. No international treaty was signed, but an unspoken détente emerged, built on shared sugar and coconut. Since then, the Lamington has remained a staple in both countries. And while the rivalry cooled, it occasionally reignites. In 2014, an April Fool's Day hoax claimed new research proved New Zealand invented the Lamington beyond doubt. Despite being satire, the story was widely believed, prompting backlash and briefly renewed hostilities. Further complicating matters, some versions of the story credit the invention not to Galland himself, but to a maid at Government House. She, it's said, dipped leftover sponge in chocolate and coconut to avoid waste. If true, it would add another layer to the dispute, one not just of nations, but of class and gender. At its core, the Lamington crisis was never really about cake. It was about identity. A light, fluffy sponge became a dense metaphor for cultural pride, historical memory, and the stories we tell to make meaning out of meals. In the decades since, the Lamington has found new forms, cream-filled, raspberry-coated, even gluten-free. But it still carries the weight of 1927's diplomatic dessert duel. Both countries now celebrate the cake in national holidays and regional festivals, often side by side. Tourists are rarely told of the controversy. The sugar has settled. The coconut clings peacefully. Still, beneath the icing, the old rivalry simmers, waiting for its next slice. If you liked what you watched, please like and subscribe. We post interesting and crazy stories from throughout history every Wednesday and Saturday. Yesterday's craziness, because yesterday was crazy too.